Hey guys, Middle Jesus here, and today I am back with a review and some gameplay and my thoughts on the awesome twin stick shooter called Nex Machina. I am playing this on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It is running in 4K, and if you happen to have one of those on a compatible television, you get HDR, although this video is not HDR, but man, this is such a cool game. I've been playing this game for a couple years now, and it's about time I threw up some gameplay footage and talked about it. Although that's not necessarily true, because I did talk about this game recently, about a month ago, in a PlayStation 4 Hidden Gems video. I actually talked about two of the games that were made by this publisher. The publisher is Housemarque, and in that video, I kind of embarrassed myself because I kept calling it Housemarque because well, words are hard. Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think marquee and mark are just one letter off. It depends on how many E's you have at the end of that. I could be screwing that up for a second time, but yeah. Anyways, Housemarque made two awesome hidden gems for the PlayStation 4, Nex Machina as well as Alienation. Now, like I said, and as you can see from this footage, this is a twin stick shooter, and I like this. I had to think about it for a second. I like this one slightly more than Alienation. Both games are actually very different from each other. This one here is more of an arena style, kind of almost like Smash TV, where Alienation is much more story driven, and the levels are not quite as fast as this. Although both games are actually pretty hard. If you notice in the beginning there, when I selected the difficulty, I selected Rookie. Yes, I'm playing this game on Rookie right now, and as you can see, it's pretty tough. This is not an easy game. So what's going on here? Well, it is a twin stick shooter. And first of all, it controls extremely well. Like, it just feels very natural in this game to cruise around and blowing stuff up for sure. The one thing about this game, well, it's got a couple of things that are pretty cool about it. It's very much like Robotron, where every level has humans that you can rescue. Now, it's optional; you don't have to do that, but you know, it's one of those things where you kind of want to do it because it's cool when it happens, but it definitely makes it stressful, as you see here, because I keep dying because right off the bat, I'm going for the humans, but then I'll die. And then I try to do it as quickly as possible. Also, it should be noted that there are, in some levels, I don't know if it's all levels, but certainly some of them have hidden humans that you can potentially find. Actually, there's quite a bit of secrets in this game. You'll notice that I'm shooting some of the blocks that blow up. And every once in a while, you'll see that there are covered or different colored blocks as well. And depending on the color and the placement of them, you can unlock things. These levels are actually pretty dynamic. There's quite a bit of exploration that goes on in here. And, most of it is optional. I think the only thing you really have to do to finish a level is simply just destroy all of the aliens, or all of the enemies. But yeah, it's pretty cool to play and kind of learn the levels. Actually, I know the first level pretty well. The first section here, I guess. And so I know, for instance, right here, I'm supposed to dodge through those beams and things like that. Speaking of which, or dodge, it's dash actually. And speaking of which, the big mechanic for this game for sure is the dash. While you are dashing, you cannot be damaged. And so often whenever you're surrounded by enemies, you'll have to dash just to kind of get out of the way. But also too, like for instance, these pink beams here as well, is that you need to dash through them, otherwise you'd instantly die. There's also secondary weapons that you can pick up, and you'll see me do that occasionally, although I'm pretty bad about actually remembering to use them. And there's quite a few different ones. You'll have swords, you'll have bombs, you'll have things like that. I'm not great at this game, but I love playing it. Actually, if you want to see some really impressive gameplay footage, do a search on YouTube for people who kind of 100% this game. And it gives you a whole new perspective as to just how polished these games are, and how deep you can go into them to completely master them. Speaking of which, the secondary weapon, you saw me using the blade there for a second, but yeah, it's impressive. Like I said, I every once in a while I'll watch one of those videos where someone who plays this who's extremely good. You know, it's like every game, right? It's like people become obsessed, and then all of a sudden they're, you know, experts at it. But man, it's so cool to watch people do that with this game. Again, not the I don't have quite the dedication that it would require to do that, but I always appreciate it. The other thing that I want to talk about in this game, and that you probably recognize it almost immediately, are the graphics. There's a couple things about the graphics that I think are pretty cool. The first one being the use of voxels. Voxels are a technology that's been around for quite a while, although only recently have computers and gaming consoles been powerful enough to use them in this capacity. That's basically all the bricks that are breaking apart there. Often those voxels have their own unique real-time physics along with them, and so there is a lot of processing power that or processing requirements that go into making that happen. And I just think it's really impressive in this game how everything breaks apart. It just looks beautiful and glorious. Actually, the developer of this originally kind of debuted that technology on, was it the PS4? I'm trying to remember, but it was Resogun. Maybe it was PS5. I forget now. It's been a while, but that game was a Defender-like game that had a bunch of voxels, a bunch of stuff blown apart quite like this game, and I just think that's a really cool look. It makes it very unique. It never gets old. You know, when you're playing a shooter like this, you love it whenever the enemies explode, and no other game is quite like this, quite as satisfying when stuff blows apart, especially when it comes to this boss battle that's going to happen here fairly soon. And the other thing that's pretty impressive about the graphics in this game, and really just the game engine, is the lack of load times. Maybe you've noticed, but this entire level has had no load times. It just basically goes from one area to the next. And even when I die, it's instantaneous. It kind of, you know, rewinds time a little bit and goes back, and you're just right back in the action, which again is really impressive for how large the levels in this game are and how much is going on. I just think that's really cool. Again, it never takes you out of the game at all. Now, I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this game, and I was telling him how much I love it, and he's like, nah, I actually prefer Alien Nation a little bit more. Speaking of which, just to interrupt here, notice this kind of third-person view right there. That happened in this game, and I thought, oh, that was pretty cool. That, you know, that's an interesting perspective to take for a couple seconds. But playing this game in 2021, you're suddenly reminded that, oh, that's where they got the idea, or I assume they got the idea for Returnal. So Returnal is another Housemarque game that just came out on the PlayStation 5. And many of the elements of this game actually you can see in Returnal. So for instance, you know, all the run and gun sort of stuff that you do in this game, the slight bullet hell style of the enemies when they fire at you, you know, is present and kind of refined in Returnal. Now this is the enemy, the end boss for this level here. Again, I like how it just naturally transitions to that. There was no loading, there was no cutscene where the enemy talks or taunts you. It just, you go right in it and suddenly you're battling. And it has, looks like 2 or 3 different stages. And it just slowly gets a little bit more chaotic. I love those skulls right there where I'm trying to dodge those. And then I'm using my secondary beamtron to damage it. And then check this out. And then just a big old satisfying explosion. Ah, that never gets old. And then it gives you an end of screen here, or world complete. Shows you how many humans you saved, how many secret humans you saved. Also, I guess there's secret exits. I didn't know that. We're going to move on to the second level here, and it's cool because it mixes it up a little bit. It looks a little bit different. We're in snow, but yeah, it's tough, man. This game is hard. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying when I was talking to a friend of mine, we were comparing these games, and I was saying how much I like this one, and he was saying, I actually like, he likes Alien Nation a little bit more, which I found kind of surprising because actually I think they're both really cool games for different reasons. But going back and playing Alien Nation recently, I can see why he may not like this game, because this game is chaotic all the time. It never lets up. You're always going. You're always trying to survive. And it's rough. Where in Alien Nation, what I like about that game, again, it feels a little bit more like a story-driven arcade game. And in that the levels are designed so that you're not always having to just be in combat. You can take a couple moments here and there after a swarm to kind of gather your wits a little bit, maybe take a little bit of a breather. Also, to be fair, the Alien Nation has really cool, realistic levels where there's cities, there's towns, there's broken down cars, things like that, where again, this is a little bit more abstract. But overall, I just think that this developer, Housemarque, is super talented. If you compare this game to Returnal, man, it's like they're very different looking games. It's quite impressive how they take what they've learned on these twin stick shooters, these action games, and then really made something that is memorable, in both of them. So sadly, I am reaching the end of my playthrough here. I was hoping that this would be a little bit of a better run. I've certainly gotten further in the game than this, although, to be honest, I don't think I've beaten the second level, but I don't think I've beaten the third level. This game is hard. That said, it is possible to learn it, though. It's not randomized. And so, again, it's one of those games where if you just put the time in, you learn the waves of the enemies that are going to come at you, you can definitely get better at it. But it is chaos. Again, I was playing it one time with my friend, a different friend, actually, who had never seen this. I was like, oh, man, you got to check this game out. And after watching me play it, I could tell he just breathed a sigh of relief. It was like he was holding his breath the entire time. It was so stressful for him. And so, yeah, it's definitely a really cool game. But anyways, we're going to finish this out here. I'm going to die pretty quickly, but I'd love to know down in the comments what you think of Nex Machina, also what you think of Alien Nation, maybe Returnal, and what do you think that Housemarque should do next? We haven't heard what they're going to do next as of the making of this video. Maybe I assume they're probably going to do some DLC or something, maybe with Returnal. But who knows? It'd be pretty interesting. They're obviously a very talented developer. They could do a lot of things. So, anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.
Multiplier up.